not clapping.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of Your Thoughts. I have got Ryan, no last name here, and we're going to discuss conspiracies today.
Yeah, we're actually not talking about religion for once. I thought that would be a nice break for everyone at home.
It'll be very interesting.
So, what's important to me is overall pretty much skepticism. You have a lot of misinformation that gets thrown out into the community, and conspiracies is a lot of people's favorite kind of thing. I mean, no matter what it is, some kind of conversation, a lot of just events will turn into a conspiracy, just out of nowhere, whether it's intended or not. Something doesn't seem right, we want to go ahead and fill in the gaps. And sometimes those gaps are pretty convenient and almost too convenient to the point where it sounds ridiculous, even though it makes sense.
Right, and questioning things is not a bad thing, but when you start to correlate your answers into some theory, that's where it becomes really complicated and sometimes bad.
Well, I mean, if you have a false narrative, if you take something, Newtown, Connecticut, and you say, oh, none of that was real, this was FBI agents that took out these kids, or there were missing records of deaths from that time. I remember that being a part of the conspiracy, and it illegitimizes people who actually died. And I would argue that's a bad thing. I mean, not only is it to the families and everyone involved, but
well, it also affiliates a large government organization in some sort of tragedy,
yeah,
which doesn't look good.
It was the lizard people.
The lizard people.
So it's the Illuminati.
I didn't get to the Alex Jones stuff, the crisis actors. So
okay,
I did the other two that we discussed, but I didn't do that one. So
I mean, honestly,
is that the one that you primarily did?
No. I mean, like, probably the biggest one is 9/11. I mean, that's most relevant to us being millennials, growing up, seeing that on the TV.
It's also a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic,
It's a classic conspiracy theory.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being, 5 years old, watching this on the TV, and I didn't understand what the hell was going on.
Apparently, to define the millennials, one of the cutoffs is you remember 9/11 or you don't remember 9/11.
Yeah, that is true.
I did not know that as an interesting fact that
Well, what is it, like the 80s to
up to 1994, 95, or 2000, depending on the source of, they typically do this for research purposes. They define a specific segment of the population, millennials.
We're so hated.
Yeah. We're so hated. We caused everything, apparently.
Yeah. I'm crying right now. I am literally triggered.
Yeah. Fucking snowflake.
Hey, man. That's our word.
Well, it's for us. To us.
But yeah, remembering that, seeing that on the TV, planes crashing in towers, you're like, is this the new James Bond film? What the hell's going on? I didn't know what James Bond was when I was 5.
Where were you during 9/11?
I'm not Jewish. I'm not a part of the conspiracy, guys. I didn't do it. Or whatever there was. What is it? Like, people were like, oh, no Jews were in the towers that day. I'm like, really? What does that have to do with anything?
Is that true?
I've heard that being an argument. Like, all the Jews, I don't know why everything has to be anti-Semitic or whatever.
Jews caused 9/11.
Brandie is taking a hard stance. Yeah, the Zionists did 9/11. There was a insurance policy taken out, and I don't know, man. It's just, there's so weird little things, little narratives that people want to put in there.
I've actually heard about the insurance policy being taken out like a month or a year or something before 9/11 happened, and it just happens to include aerial events happening, like a plane crashing in. But that did actually happen in, I believe, the 70s. A plane did hit the Empire State Building.
Yes.
So it's not like that's an unfounded thing.
No, I don't. That was actually an argument proposed to why the towers were set up to explode, because, the Empire State Building was hit with a plane. albeit that plane was much smaller and didn't have
Jet fuel.
Yeah, jet fuel.
It had. Well, I'm not sure how that works. Do smaller airplanes still use jet fuel? I would assume so.
Well, I mean,
It's
that
probably
was a
the same
propeller
thing.
plane. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know. I'd assume that there is just the basic size alone should be all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Well, the force of impact would definitely be dependent on the size as well.
Yeah.
How large the plane is.
So basically, to give more premise to our talk today, we're talking conspiracies. Jesse isn't here today. We have Brandie over manning the camera there instead. You're gonna have to pick up the dick jokes for lack of Jesse being here.
Yeah.
Don't think I can do that for you. We'll do my best, though.
There won't be as much comedic relief.
We miss you, Jesse. You're here in spirit. But yeah, we're 9/11 is a big issue or a big topic. I don't know where you guys have standed before on conspiracy theories. I used to be a big conspiracy theorist.
I was actually too, and both of the conspiracies, the 9/11 conspiracy and the Seth Rich murder that we discussed talking about, those were actually conspiracies that I followed for all of my life.
Oh wow.
They're fun.
Well,
9/11 specifically, since
Seth
that one-
Rich was recent though.
Yeah, that one was
so-
recent, but like,
But you
I
kind of took
followed
it.
it.
You
Yeah.
followed it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I used to. Hell, if you're my friend on Facebook, I've shared it before in the past where I bought natural toothpaste because I was convinced, fluoridation in the water is bad for you and it's poisonous. And
I've done that as well.
I've heard that one.
yeah, Hitler
that
did
one.
it to the Jews and to make them docile and stuff like that. I totally believe that. So
Well, the reality of that myth is too much fluoride actually does like deteriorate your bones and like cause health problems.
yeah.
It also stops tooth decay. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
9 out of 9. I almost said the joke there.
9 out of
9 out of 11 doctors recommend toothpaste and fluoridation. I'm sorry. We had to go there at some point. It was only a matter of time.
9/11.
No, yeah, I used to buy into a lot what is it? The disaster people that come out during natural disasters. What are they called?
FEMA?
FEMA. Yeah, FEMA camps and stuff like that. The
Oh, yeah.
freaking
The fucking coffin.
yeah,
thing
the
that
coffins and
Alex
everything
Jones
like
was
that.
talking about.
Stadiums being like centers for
Do you
death
know
or
what
something like that.
Do you know what those were? Those are like waterproof, like to prevent water from coming into like grave sites.
Oh. No, I didn't know. Well, honestly, I was like, yeah, when I was watching those YouTube videos about lizard people controlling the government and everything like that, it's like, yeah, no, they're totally wanting to kill us all, and we're going to be all in these FEMA camps with being like internment slaves, and our bodies are going to go in there in mass graves. Not really understanding what the end goal is. Thinking back on the conspiracy theories, stuff like that, when you did believe that, did you ever really take into consideration now what would be the end goal of all these conspiracy theories? Like, what do these people want?
I think usually the rationalization for conspiracy theorists is population control.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. The Georgia Guidestones and what is it, 125,000 people on Earth maximum. The whole Earth. I'm like, man, that's a little amount of people. Like, we have more people than here in Phoenix than that.
Yeah, we've got like, I want to say like 30 million in Phoenix or something.
there's-
Something like really large.
Yeah, no. So like 125,000 people across the whole entire Earth. That's ridiculously small. It's like an Iowa town small. But
Idaho has more people than that.
well, I mean, if you take into account all the potatoes.
I lived in Idaho for years and never saw a potato farm once.
Really?
No, I don't
Do
know
you-
where they are.
Do potatoes count as humans or people?
I
That
don't know.
depends. Can trees think?
Depends on what you're on.
My mind just exploded. No, but yeah, thinking back on all the things that you used to believe in, and then I don't really know what the turning point was, but you kind of develop a more larger skepticism thing. I still argue with a lot of conspiracy theorists online. And you honestly don't need to know much about the conspiracy to argue with people. You just have to use the Socratic method,
Yes.
asking questions, because a lot of things fall apart when you start to ask questions.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how did this happen? Who knows that it happened? Who is they? There's always a reference to they or them. Is an unambiguous term that's just like, I don't know, the Illuminati? Who the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, defining they and them is very important when you're having a conversation.
Yeah, because you're just having this shadow figure that is somehow powerful but also inept.
And we all do it as well. It's really easy to say, like, you go to the hospital and they took care of me.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
associating that, but sometimes the information is, like, you need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it?
Yeah, and then like conspiracies of we have a cure for cancer and we just don't give it to everyone because
It's marijuana. That's
Gosh,
also a conspiracy.
that bugs me so much. It's like, guys, you realize that cannabis icon Bob Marley died of cancer, a form of cancer, and he smoked that shit all the time. Obviously, it was not a cure.
I think the problem with that claim is there's small research that's been done on it, and there's been a few people that have seen like shrinkage or disappearance of their tumors. But the problem is that it's like any other drug, and everyone reacts to it really differently.
Yeah.
So it's definitely no cure-all for cancer.
Yeah, there is some studies that have shown a benefit to it. We just need to legalize it so that way we can tell. In certain cases, in certain types of cancer, people don't understand that cancer is many different types of cancer. It's not just quote-unquote cancer.
Right. There are so many different variations of cancer.
And like also, if there was a cure for cancer, the amount of people that would have to understand that and keep quiet about it would be ridiculous. Not only that, but you would have to deal with the insurance companies not barging down the door instead of having to pay for all these treatments, pay for the cure, and then that's actually less money spent for the insurance companies. But that gets into big pharma versus insurance companies.
And that's not one of our conspiracy theories next time.
There's a lot of things people have to say about that, I'm sure. But yeah, September 11th.
Yeah, that goes into the 9/11 conspiracy. How would a government with all of the moving parts that are involved in the government actually create some sort of false flag like 9/11 and nobody knows that it happened?
It goes to show,
Or nobody speaks about it. Like that many people, that many moving parts, somebody would say something somewhere.
yeah.
You
yeah.
would
a lot
think
of people have
that
to
would
say,
happen.
keep quiet about it. I think people give the government more credit than what they're capable of.
I agree.
I mean, if we look at the shortcomings, a lot of things that our government fails to do, and then we give them credit for a globalist deep state that can suddenly control everything, yet seem completely inept at the same time, it's kind of mutually exclusive in my view. But yes, I mean, we've had, in a way, false flags and conspiracies before that we can confirm.
Yes.
I mean, one great thing, because it's very similar, that no one really gives a conspiracy theory to is Pearl Harbor. Hitler's Rising.
I think I have heard a conspiracy theory about Pearl Harbor.
Oh, really? I haven't heard anything. So, hey,
I think
maybe that's just a fault on my part for not looking for it. But
I think the conspiracy was that FDR knew that it was going to happen, and he allowed it to happen to get into World War II. I have no idea if that's true.
yeah, that would be an interesting point to research then.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that would be similar to 9/11. We needed an excuse for going to war.
And one of the conspiracy theories on 9/11 is that same premise.
Yeah. We want oil.
The CIA had intelligence on what was going on. They were following people that were involved with the hijackings.
Mm-hmm.
And then allowed it to happen.
Yeah. Again, it goes to a lot of moving parts that someone's gonna fail. People are terrible at keeping secrets. I mean, fucking Watergate, we couldn't even break into a hotel. Like, there are some things that are conspiracies that just, it's really not that big of a deal. and they seem very human and flawed when they do actually happen. But when you talk to conspiracy theorists, suddenly there's like elite agents that no one knows about. What probably one of my most favorite thing when I
Say
talk.
that again, but more Alex Jonesy.
I'm not doing an Alex Jones voice.
You almost did.
One of my favorite things when I talk to conspiracy theorists is probably when they say that there's a something. There's just like people or something, a secret base maybe. Be like, there's a secret base that no one knows where it's at. It's like, then how do you know about it if it's a secret? That doesn't make any sense.
If so many people know about it, then is it
It's
really
not
a
a
secret?
That's probably one of my favorite things. And that's just, goes back to asking questions, of using that Socratic method to really tease out their point. And you'll find that their bases, usually they'll find something to shoehorn in there to make sense of it, but a lot of the time things start to fall apart. But as for 9/11, I don't think there's any information to really say whether or not our government is actually responsible for it.
Let's give a little bit of background on 9/11. I wrote down some facts just for people who, for some reason, don't know.
Maybe they're too young.
Yeah, maybe. But I feel like this country is very on top of educating people about this event.
Yeah, Tyler did his homework here, all the respect to him.
Yeah, 9/11 refers to September 11th terrorist attacks that happened in 2001. It was 4 coordinated hijackings of 2 United Airlines and 2 American Airlines passenger planes. 19 people were involved in the hijackings, and they were affiliated with the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda. Almost 3,000 people died and over 6,000 were injured.
Yeah. That's, how often do you hear remember 9/11? I think it's such a big thing, like, within our timeline. It would be as if you were going back to the early 1800s, how big of a deal the War of 1812 was. That would be as monumentous.
Right, or the Civil War.
Yeah, or the Civil War or something like that. It'd be something that everyone would be talking about for years and years to come.
Historically relevant large-scale event.
Yeah, and because of that, and people seemingly not wanting to do research or simply going to one Google article, get so much misinformation and interpret that for themselves. And there are gaps, so they want to fill up those gaps with the easiest answer.
What I noticed is a lot of the conspiracy theories were started on early internet forum sites.
Yeah.
Just people talking about what was going on, and then somebody says something that's like, how do you prove that?
Yeah, no. A lot of claims get thrown out there, none of which can, or many of which cannot be justified at all. It just is a seemingly easy end, or seemingly easy means to an end. It's always good to pull out Occam's razor at that point. And like, was it really a shadow government that controls a bunch of people and somehow brainwashed or worked with these Islamic groups?
How do we know that it was a shadow government? What sort of evidence do we have to point in that direction?
Or was it just people who managed to hijack a plane and then crash it? I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts in one, not a whole lot of moving parts in the other. Occam's razor says this one would probably be more likely. So,
you have to question things. You have to.
Yeah. For my earlier point, though, is like, I don't think there's really any evidence to show that there was a collusion within our own government that pulled the trigger on 9/11. But one thing that I really, really argue about when it comes to 9/11 is that the towers themselves were set to explode. Or there's no way jet fuel burns that hot. The classic term.
2 of the claims that I found that can be factually disputed, there was a investigation done by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, and it was covered by the tech magazine Popular Mechanics as well. And So the claim is, how did the impact of an airplane cause the bottom floor 80 floors below to look like an explosion happened after the impact? So the NIST investigation revealed that plane debris sliced through the utility shafts of the North Tower's core, creating a conduit for burning jet fuel. I looked up what conduit is because I didn't know.
Yeah.
It just means there was a way for something to flow.
Yeah.
Or
All the way down to the bottom.
yeah.
Mhm.
And as the jet fuel went down, it ignited and caused the elevator shafts to crash down and essentially created a bomb.
Yeah. And I'm pretty certain I've heard of people doing kind of like recreations and studies on how the structure of the building, and we could scientifically show and demonstrate, yeah, this can fall. Here's how it fell.
Well, there's eyewitness reports from people who were at the bottom floor when this happened as well, and they saw people burning.
Oh, really?
And I think there was a French documentary on 9/11 that was referenced in the Popular Mechanics article, where they also filmed that.
Yeah, I know there's like a lot of things people, and honestly, we have to address eyewitness testimony as very, very unreliable.
Yes.
we have to acknowledge that. I mean, and that goes either way, for and against. If somebody says they saw something, man, people see shit all the time. All right.
Our senses are very easily fooled.
Yeah, go look up optical illusions. That's all the evidence you need that your brain is not your friend.
That
when it
is
comes
the
to that.
entire premise of how a magician makes money.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can be fooled into thinking a guy can levitate, you can be fooled that you can go see Bigfoot or something. You are mistaken. That's okay. The point is not to, when you see something flying in the sky, say, hey, I don't know what that was, therefore it's aliens. That doesn't follow. You could just say, hey, there's something in the sky, I don't know what the fuck that is. And then you stop right there. Let's go investigate, instead of, nope, definitely aliens.
It has to be aliens. There's no other explanation. Nobody else can fly.
I tried to get a picture with my cell phone, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Grabs the shittiest camera ever. Look, a UFO.
Yeah, look,
For
you see
some reason, I decided to shoot this film in 120.
Yeah, you see that grain that could be easily a bird in this frame? That was an alien. Man, have you ever thought you've seen a UFO?
The only time that I've wanted to, I've always wanted to,
right?
But the only time that I have ever seen anything that made me question what it actually was there was a light up in the sky, just staying there. And what it turned out to be, or what we thought it may have been, was a weather balloon.
Ah. Yeah, I mean, I know very popular here in Arizona is the Phoenix Lights.
I think I actually looked it up and it was a weather balloon. I can't recall. It was a couple years ago.
It was aliens.
It was definitely aliens.
We
I
got
think you're onto
abducted that
something,
night.
Mulder.
For definitely aliens.
I think you're onto something, Mulder.
Best show ever.
I don't know how we track this. How would we find out if it was aliens, and what do we do now?
And also the claim, like, we have an advanced scientific civilization that has mastered intergalactic space travel just to accidentally crash on Earth. It's like, you guys didn't think of this?
I like the way that science is going currently. They're questioning the concept of aliens at all, because why would another species send their species to the planet? Why wouldn't they just send... If they can do intergalactic space travel, then why would they not send a robot or some humanoid or...
Yeah. I mean, that kind of ties in with, like, the Fermi
Speciezoid.
Paradox.
Yes.
Yeah, the Fermi Paradox. I know what it is. I don't know the exact definition. Go look it up. Google Fermi Paradox.
I can do it right now.
No, that's too much work. We can slide it in. No.
One of the other claims is...
Back to 9/11.
Back to 9/11. Never forget.
You can't forget. That's
Good
the
thing
topic.
it wasn't 7-Eleven, am I right?
Damn it, Brandie.
I've seen that before. I've seen that joke.
Is it a coincidence that you never really see 7-Elevens anymore? I think not.
They just missed it by 2 days. Or 2 months. 2 months.
2 something, 2
The
away from
Simpsons
7.
predicted it.
Why were there puffs of smoke that were seen as each floor collapsed in the Twin Towers? This is another claim. Why
Like
were
there
the
explosives
yes.
going off
Like,
prematurely or something like that?
You see in a demolition building, as it's being destroyed, you see the puffs of smoke that are coming out as each floor detonates. Why did that happen? Well,
Not knowing anything, I would just say, is that just not pressure being released through the sides of the windows?
that is exactly what it is.
Wow, I don't know anything. I don't have an engineering degree. I just fucking solved that mystery.
And by the way, the NIST investigation was done by the private sector and the government and involved a ton of engineers. This whole engineers trying to prove that it didn't happen. What about the engineers that are trying to prove that it did happen?
I love that. Arguments like that. It's like, no, only my pet theory works. Yours doesn't.
I am an engineer with a different opinion.
So, the weight of all the floors above the collapse zone bore down and pulverized with pulverized force on the highest intact floor. So the floor right above collapsed, and then the weight of that pulverized the floor below it because the weight gave away. Everything is coming down now.
Yeah.
That process is called pancaking.
Pancakes.
Pancakes. Make bacon pancakes. And the NIST report said this does not require an explosion to happen. This is a report done by engineers who know what they're talking about.
Yeah, like I said before, I'm pretty sure there are published articles about how everything has happened.
Yeah.
And yet people still seem to dispute it. I'd have to say they're either ignorant of it or they don't want to know of it. I don't know.
I think there's a way to try to dispute it if you're taking in the facts but also questioning it, but if you're just claiming that it didn't happen that way at all, then...
Or you can go with the big government conspiracy. That's exactly what they wanted it to look like.
Yep, it's a false flag. It happened like that.
That's such a convenient trump card to pull. It's like, well,
Yeah,
that's exactly what they would want it to look like. So therefore, that's proof of the conspiracy. No.
Which is the definition of a false flag, but that doesn't mean it happened.
I mean, there's so much fallacious reasoning and arguments when it comes to these things. Argument from ignorance. I don't know, therefore it was this. You don't know, but it's this.
Right. If you don't know and you make a claim, then
either or fallacies, false dichotomies. It was either the government or it was aliens. I don't know. Something like
the
that.
2 most powerful beings in the universe.
The government and aliens.
Yes.
You heard it here.
We're going to need to take a short break.
Peace.
Yeah.
All right. See you soon.
Man, 30 minutes always goes by so fast.
Yeah. It was probably more like 28.
We good?
We straight.
Rolling.
Duh. Okay.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Hope you guys enjoyed the commercial. This is where we'd place commercials if we were monetized.
Yeah. Dutch Bros sponsor us.
Please. Notice
See
me,
this
senpai.
Right here. Product placement. Okay, so the last claim on 9/11, and then we'll move on to a different topic.
Yeah, we're bad at this. Or I am, at least.
I saved the best one for last. This one has become a meme and is all over the internet every September 11th.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
That is correct.
Neither can
Jet-
peanut butter.
Peanut butter cannot melt steel beams.
So therefore, it was peanut butter.
Yes. That is factual.
Peanut butter caused 9/11, you're right.
No sources needed. Jet fuel does not melt steel beams. That is actually a factual claim.
It is.
I did not realize that. I thought people were being fallacious.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, it doesn't melt it.
It burns at 800 degrees to 1500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, for
Which
all
is-
you freaking standardized, people. We're talking imperial system here, people. Fahrenheit.
I apologize. I don't know the conversion into Celsius. So if you're watching in a different country,
It's got to at least be 1 Celsius.
You can
Google
ask
it.
Siri. They'll let
It's
you
got to
know.
at least be that.
or your variant of Google, if you're in China. You probably won't watch this.
Man, we're really missing out on all that Chinese listenership.
Where are the subtitles? Okay, so it would have to be 2,750 degrees Fahrenheit to melt the steel beams. But just because jet fuel does not melt steel beams does not mean the building wouldn't buckle under the pressure of steel bending.
Yeah. You know,
Heat causes steel to expand and contract, and steel loses 50% of its strength at 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit.
that's almost enough to, what you would think that it would bend. 50%? Wow.
The jet fuel ignited the flammable material in the room, like curtains or the carpets or paper or desks or anything.
Or peanut butter.
Anything is really flammable. Unless it's
is
metal
peanut butter
or
flammable?
concrete.
I'm going to create a new conspiracy theory that peanut butter was the cause.
Peanut butter took down the World Trade Center.
How much did Jif profitize after this? I think this is
I
questions that
think
need to be
Skippy
asked.
is the best
Wait,
peanut
Jif?
butter.
Jif Bush?
I need to leave. I'm
Get
sorry,
out
I
of my
can't do
house.
this anymore.
I think Jif Bush took down the World Trade Center.
Chunky.
What's an off-brand peanut butter?
Skippy.
Great value. Skippy is not fight me.
I will fight you.
So the NIST reports that pockets of the fire hit 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit. So keep in mind, steel loses 50% of its strength at 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. The fire was well over what it needed to lose its strength. And when steel expands and contracts, it starts to bend, which would have broken the concrete around it, which would have caused the stability to...
Internal collapsing
Yeah.
and yeah, it's gonna buckle.
Yeah.
It's got all that weight. I mean, take a bunch of weight on yourself and you bend, you're gonna topple over.
Let me reiterate, this was done by engineers.
Yeah,
They know what they're talking about.
But my engineers said that you're wrong. But
But
they're not publishing
My engineers
articles
said that it's right.
apparently. Like you only need to look to the peer-reviewed articles, and are the other side publishing articles? Are they being peer-reviewed? Are they being passed? To my knowledge, no. We have the articles that show that yes, this can happen. Here's how it could have happened, and there you go. It's internally consistent. Are you looking for Twinkies?
I was just looking to see what's in my mini fridge. For anybody that's wondering. We got cherry vanilla Pepsi and orange Bud Light.
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us, Bud Light.
Not the orange one.
But
Not that you don't
Any
like
Bud Light.
it? Not actually Bud Light. Go away.
Bud Light, don't sponsor us. Don't sue us.
domestic beer is shitty. So that's a hard stance that I take.
Whoa. Sources, please.
All right, so we're going to be moving on to our next topic.
All right.
Tyler, introduce us.
So the next conspiracy that we discussed talking about was the murder of Seth Rich. Some backstory on Seth Rich is he was a young Democratic National Committee, so that's the DNC. He was an employee for the DNC, and he was fatally shot in the back in Bloomingdale near Washington, D.C. on July 10th, 2016. This was in the middle of the 2016 presidential election, right before the Democratic primary. So, additional facts. The shooting is determined to be a robbery gone wrong and is still currently under investigation by the DC Metro Police. None of his possessions were taken from him, which is what really ignited the conspiracy. 2 weeks later, WikiLeaks released the DNC emails, which did not help this at all. And WikiLeaks also offered $20,000 for information leading to a conviction of Rich's killer. So what WikiLeaks is a multinational media organization that has never been proven wrong on the information that they've released. Is there a correlation between sugar and stupidity?
I mean, I'm sure there is.
The
But
people that eat it.
people, like, who doesn't have sugar?
It depends on what country you're in. If you're in the United States, you cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling.
Was that good?
Sure.
Sure.
It could have been louder. There you go. That was solid.
I don't know why I took a breath. And we're back again.
My bad.
So,
Okay, so to recap, we're talking about the Seth Rich murder. And you said you didn't.
I looked
this
into
one
it
as
a
much?
little bit. So this is going to be probably a little one-sided. I will apply skepticism where needed. It seems to me, from what I do know, just the it goes back to things that are coincidental.
Yes.
It's just heavy coincidences.
Yes.
What like
along with political fuel, because an election's going on, so people are constantly fabricating information or making up stories to try to dissuade the vote from this specific candidate. So
I mean, one thing it really reminds me of, going pre-World War I, with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It just happened to be coincidental that Gavrilo Princip happened to be in the right area at the right time after all of the other assassins failed.
right.
He just happened to be there,
That is
right next to him.
Such an incredible story, like that chain of events.
If
and
you
then
guys
him
haven't,
missing his mark and still hitting his mark.
yeah, if you guys haven't looked into the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, it is a crazy story that just goes to show, even when there's a conspiracy to assassinate a political figure, human beings are terrible at collaborating. But he just happened to be in the right place at the right time, right next to him. Boom.
After the parade already passed him, he missed his mark and then happens to go and find him again. And then he takes a cyanide pill and doesn't die from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It was old cyanide.
yeah, Gavrilo Princip. I think that is a strong enough, like, kind of similarity that goes to show that coincidences just happen. These things, somebody dies, it looks like some kind of crazy setup, but in reality, it was just a series of coincidences that happened to achieve a goal. Now, that was actually politically motivated. This one, I don't think there's really any evidence to show that.
At this point, no, because the investigation is still open, and there's so much political fuel. Also, so the claim was Seth Rich murdered by the Clintons or Russian agents for his involvement with multinational media organization WikiLeaks and the leaking of the DNC emails in 2016, or was it just a robbery? So this story was actually retracted by Fox a week after it was released. They had a story linking an FBI agent.
Was this on Hannity?
I'm not sure, actually.
I think I saw something on that when I was researching. It was Hannity making that. I don't know.
There was a Fox story that was released that was like a interview with a FBI agent who didn't release his name or something, and
Oh, nothing more reliable than an anonymous source.
yeah. And he talked about how he went through Seth Rich's computer and found information that linked him to WikiLeaks, and
Probably found a lot of weird porn, too. Chose not to talk about that, though. I'm more interested in the porn.
anyway, the story was actually retracted a week later, and after the story was released, it was immediately picked up as fuel for this conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
People affiliated with the Trump campaign used it. People like Roger Stone used it, and they tied it into another conspiracy that's actually been around since the 90s. That was the Clintons were assassinating their political opponents, There's no proof of this, but people around the Clintons mysteriously have died of heart attacks. Mysteriously.
And let's
Yeah,
be
even
honest
though-
here. Hillary Clinton is, she's got the face of a killer.
She is terrifying.
I would not want to be in the same room as her. I would.
I did not vote for her.
Came, you saw,
No.
you died.
It's like, America is like one of the worst countries in the world for heart disease, and suddenly people are having like heart attacks and heart
it's-
problems.
It's weird.
Who knew?
Whoa. That also must be Hillary Clinton's fault.
It's all Hillary Clinton. The Clinton Foundation directly funds heart attacks people.
So after this article is posted and then retracted by Fox, they are sued by Seth Rich's parents for the story because they felt like it was an attack on them. They're grieving their son's loss, and this article with completely false claims is put out to the public. And Rod Wheeler, an investigator that was hired by a Republican donor, also sues Fox for defamation. He was, I guess, an investigator that was linked to this article.
Okay.
He was paid to do an investigation on Seth Rich's death. And I guess he felt like he was inaccurately portrayed within this article.
So they're being sued over defamation and false narratives, or that's kind of like what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
Defamation, false narratives, and then these are two separate lawsuits as well. These
Okay.
aren't together. So
It's very reminiscent of like Pizzagate, where false information was being thrown out there, and then somebody goes in and shoots up a pizza place. What was it, Pizza Hut or something like that?
I think it was actually a local DC
local pizza
police.
Yeah, you get
place.
out these false narratives. People take it, and I mean, honestly, if you really thought that there was a pedophile rape ring of kids, if you honestly thought that, it would kind of be your duty to go and try to stop it as much as possible. But that's the problem. They were given the wrong information. They were convinced of something that with bad information. So, meaning
I think I would
you can
need
do
a lot
terrible.
more information than that.
Sometimes people don't need a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
And also, what we're thinking right now is potentially not how we would think if we were in that situation.
exactly. Yeah, no.
The reason that people believe these theories is because the correlations are there. They're easy to correlate.
Yeah, there are two things that kind of line up well, and in one ways, that correlation doesn't always necessarily mean causation, but that's where you start. You start with correlation to get to causation. And that just makes sense to a lot of people, and they act upon it, not knowing that their basis is I don't know. Their basis is ill-founded. But yeah, again, you've done more research into this topic than I have. But honestly, just coincidences are just thrown everywhere. Lots of correlations.
It gets weirder.
It gets weirder.
Yeah.
Oh, please do tell.
So we all know that Trump watches Fox. His affiliates watch Fox. So
They jerk off to Fox.
they used the story as political fire to attack the Clinton campaign. And WikiLeaks does not reveal its sources, so it's unclear where the information came from. And the $20,000 reward for the conviction of the murder led to implications that it may have been Rich who passed on the emails. But there's no proof. There is still no proof to this day. This was 2 years ago. There's still no proof. In July of 2018, that was a couple months ago, the special counsel investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election issued an indictment of 12 Russian intelligence officers for the hacking of the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. So at this point, the DNC emails and the hacking of Hillary Clinton is assumed to be a Russian attack.
Right, yeah. I mean, honestly, would we really put it past Russia?
No.
I mean,
But that goes back to the claim, because you can spin this however you want. Was it the Clintons? Was it Russia who killed him? Was it just a robbery?
yeah.
it's just a circle. You go back and you change some of the information to fit your narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say it goes back to Occam's razor. What is the least amount of information needed to achieve this? People get robbed in DC a lot.
Okay, but with the robbery part, didn't they not take anything?
Well, I mean, you shoot
That's
a gun
true.
that's really loud. People are nearby. You're more likely to take off than try to search. I mean,
Right.
what
And
is the...
it was also claimed to be a botched robbery because he had defense wounds on his, I guess, wrists or knuckles or whatever. He had defense wounds.
Okay, so he struggled with the...
Yeah, he may have fought back, which if he fought back and then the gun was fired, you're going to get the fuck out of there. You're not
Yeah.
going to stay and steal his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, that goes back to, like, a principle of fight or flight. If you're willing to defend yourself, an attacker is less likely to try to hang around. If you try to stand up for that, predators go after weak prey. That's just, if there's a defense, they're less likely to go after you. They're going to get out of there. So I can kind of see how that would work out. A struggle ensues. Guy reaches for a gun to end it, and then just takes off from there. I mean, that seems... I mean, how many times does that happen versus how many times do we see a political assassination? I mean, I don't know when the last, like, really for sure political assassination comes to mind other than a Japanese prime minister in, like, the 70s.
Oh, the last one was the...
Oh, that guy that got shot on... Oh, I remember that.
No, the...
Was that not it?
North Korean... one of the family members killed Kim Jong-un's brother or something.
Oh, really?
In another country.
Oh. Okay, I think I
don't
remember
remember
hearing
this.
something about that. But I'll also remember...
I'll have to link that story because that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
They just they put gas or not gas, like some sort of chemical over his face and he just died
Oh, wow.
at an airport in like Malaysia or something.
I think I remember hearing something about that. And I remember, like, I think it was a few years ago, I want to say around 2013 or something like that, there was a guy that was shot on TV. Was it like a Russian ambassador or something like that? I honestly, this is all conjecture. I can't remember for the life of me, but I remember there being a big story where a guy was murdered on TV. There was like a conference and then a guy shot him. There was...
Oh, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was just a few years ago. Other than that, I honestly can't remember actual assassinations happening. But again, of course, if we're talking to conspiracy theorists, they'd be like, well, there's assassinations all the time, but we just don't know about them.
Yeah.
It's like, if we can't detect it, that is indifferent from, or that is basically the same thing as it not happening. If we can't show that it is, then what's the difference of it not happening?
And how do you know that it actually happened if nobody else knows?
Yeah.
You have some information that...
No one else has access to somehow.
Yeah.
Or are you just, making claims? It seems a lot more likely. So, I mean, again, when it comes to all this, I mean, back in the past, I'm not sure how much of it is legitimate of Russia, KGB assassinations, Cold War stuff, all that spy stuff that's been romanticized, especially around the Red Scare and stuff like that. How much of that is actually true of assassinations? I mean, I've heard people saying Putin himself has poisoned a lot of people. I don't know whether or not that's true.
He also has the face of a killer.
Oh, yeah. Putin's a scary guy.
He's former KGB.
Yeah, wasn't he like the head of the KGB for a while?
I'm not sure.
I don't know, but
I know
like,
he's former KGB, though.
yeah, and that's a scary dude.
The KGB assassinated a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how much of that is really true, but I mean, I was in DC not too long ago. It's a shitty city. I didn't want to be there, honestly. It was kind of cool, though, seeing everything historically. But, I mean...
I'd like to visit. I haven't had the opportunity.
It was cool for the history aspect. Library of Congress, I think it was, is beautiful. I loved staying there. Holocaust Museum, couldn't stay long. But anyway,
What was your reasoning for wearing a Make America Great hat inside the Holocaust Museum? Because That was incredibly offensive and also hilarious. The funniest thing.
I like to stir the pot. I like to be ironic.
It was
for everyone
certainly
that
hilarious.
isn't aware, my father-in-law that invited me to DC is a big Trump guy. So when we were in DC, he bought a Make America Great Again hat. And I like to be ironic. I consider myself on the left, but I like pissing off people on the left. It's just something I like to do.
It's so easy to piss off anybody into politics.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
I took a selfie on Snapchat of me in the Holocaust Museum with a Make America Great Again hat, just because it was in bad taste. And I am all for dark humor, but I couldn't resist the opportunity. It was bad. I apologize. But gosh,
I saw it and I sent you a message like, yes, yes.
I had so many people laughing like, this is so terrible, but I can't stop.
How many
laughing.
people were genuinely upset though?
I only got responses that were laughing.
That's good. That's actually surprising. Congratulations.
But yeah, no, being there, I mean, I'm pretty sure the crime rate is pretty high in DC. I'm sure we can go and look at the statistics and kind of see what that is, how many robberies happen. And, you know, if we had to ask ourselves, what is more likely? That this guy was just a robbery and it just went bad and we still don't know who did it because this shit happens a lot?
Right.
Or it was a coordinated Russian attack or Clinton attack. And again, we always have to refer back to Occam's razor. Which one is more simple?
I guess the other thing is he was shot in the back, but maybe he was trying to run away after he fought. There's nobody was there.
I mean, if it was
The
an
people that were
assassination,
there, one of them is dead and the other one is long gone and not talking, obviously.
yeah. I mean, like, assassination attempt, especially with like a shot in the back, you'd think that would be more secretive then. You would think that'd have a better setup. I don't know. I mean, at least in my mind, if there was a special operations team dedicated to assassinating people, I would think they would do a better job.
I think it happened in a neighborhood as well.
So that's probably a bad place to conduct an assassination. I mean, I don't know, I feel like there's a more efficient way if you're going to give credence to this high spec ops kind of assassination team that does this. I think they would be doing better. It goes back to the show, you know. If it was a conspiracy, these things are very human-like and they're erroneous. Maybe, but I don't see the evidence for it, and on the ongoing case, there doesn't seem to be evidence for it. So let's look for evidence instead of making claims. That's the best way to go about it.
I think the thing with conspiracy theories, this is what always keeps me interested, is not necessarily the truth behind it, but it's how fun is that? All of these really weird,
cool.
crazy
Yeah.
possibilities. You're like, yeah, Hillary Clinton's out here just killing people because they're against
She's
her.
eating
It's-
babies.
Yeah, it's there's so many people, like that's what draws me into them. I get so fascinated by all these
Yeah.
claims, and then if someone, it's just like walking on thin ice, I guess, depending on who you talk to, because someone like me will find a lot of humor in it, share the story, and then somebody else is like trying to assassinate Hillary Clinton because she's killing people when nobody knows. That's
Yeah.
probably not what's happening.
Yeah, it goes back to kind of like that thing. If you were really convinced that this stuff was happening, you would probably want to do something about it if seemingly no one else is doing anything about it. So,
Right. When we get into conspiracy topics, it's very weird for me because I don't know how much of it you believe and how much you're actually just interested in it.
right, yeah, it's kind of a...
So I just stop and I'm like, okay, that probably wouldn't happen. And that just ends the conversation.
And everyone's just like, "Aw,
Aw.
I think it's
I'm not going to try to convince you.
how
you're
much...
probably right."
Like how much information they can throw at you though when you talk to conspiracy theory. It's like, this is how it happened, this is who was involved, da 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 da. And it's like, man, you sure got a lot of information that the authorities seem to not have.
Yeah.
I mean, you should probably talk to someone. You could solve this mystery. But the fact that,
Have you talked to the police?
man, a crime just happened and I know exactly how it happened.
They didn't believe me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that could be a justification. And that goes down like a slippery slope of, okay, if we have no way to investigate it, of what use is it? If all this stuff is happening, and then we say, okay, you have all this information. Why is it not being investigated? And they just come back with, oh, they're not going to investigate it because of the big government. Okay, even if that were the case, that's useless now.
But, like, would the government really investigate its own false flag?
I don't know. I mean, we can look back and to see other false flags that are propagated to have happened. Gosh, and I'm trying to struggle to think of actual things like MK Ultra or something like that. Some kind of weird thing. It's been so long since I've actually looked into conspiracy theories. I'm struggling to bring back some.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, like, they brought back the released papers in the investigation on the JFK assassination.
Right.
Everyone was all hyped about that, and then once it was out, everyone seemingly they're just like, oh, okay.
That wasn't
It's
as
just an
exciting as I
analysis of
wanted.
what happened. I actually did not look into that.
I didn't either, so there's a caveat to that. I didn't look into it heavy either, but I think it was a testament to how lame it probably was, because there was a huge uproar about it, and then once it was released, it was nothing. I didn't hear anything about it. So seemingly it would, if it were something crazy, I think I would have heard more about it. That could just be a fault on my part. I'm completely conceding that, but I feel like there would have been more of an outrage had there been more of a conspiratorial essence to it.
I think what made it more worthy of conspiracy is that those documents were held onto for so long.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Why
That's
not
40 years.
Why not release that to the public? One thing that's actually, we're gonna be shoehorning this in because I'm sure we're almost out of time. But
Yeah.
have you seen the video of Buzz Aldrin saying saying that we
That's,
didn't go back to the moon?
The astronaut that went to the moon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, some girl was talking to him, talking about the moon, and apparently he said we never went back. We never went to the moon or something. I watched the video once, but in context, it seems like he said we never went back to the moon after the mission. That's what it sounded like. But all these moon landing conspiracy theorists are like, see, even he said we never went. It's like,
Yeah.
It's like, man, even if that were the case, even if he did say that we didn't go, he's getting old, dude. He could just start, be losing his mind. You never know. But the fact that we can go point a laser to the moon and have it reflect back at us that we set up when we went there, I don't know, man.
Buzz, what's his name?
Alderaan.
Buzz Aldrin spends a lot of time on YouTube, so he started to believe the conspiracies that we never went to the moon, even though he's been to the moon.
He went to the moon, but the conspiracy theorist arguments are so compelling that he's changed his mind.
You know what? I'm gonna die soon. What a perfect time to stir up some shit.
God, that would be who would that would be
Guess
amazing.
what? There was also aliens on the moon.
But the moon landing or like flat Earth or all of those conspiracies that are so easily disproved. We have satellites. The United States has satellites. The Russia has satellites.
China.
Japan has satellites. China has satellites. India has satellites, I think. I don't
All
know.
these people would have to be quiet about
Yes.
these things.
All of these countries, the entire planet, would have to believe this. And these theories originated in the U.S.
Like, if we never actually went to the moon while in the heat of the space race, don't you think Russia would have been like, yeah, they never went?
Russia
Right.
so would have called us out. Come on now.
Like,
They would still be calling us out.
yeah, like, you guys never went to the moon. That's bullshit. But no, we don't hear about that.
China went to the moon recently.
Oh, really? I know they've been revamping their space industry and everything like that, so
I'm pretty sure they went to the moon recently.
citation needed.
Yep, let's look that up.
All right.
I know India was trying to go to the moon. There was some sort of like funding project. If you can figure out how to get to the moon or whatever again, then we'll pay you to do it or something.
Does anyone else have any pet conspiracy theories that they like?
My favorite conspiracy theory is that Avril Lavigne has died, and and she's been replaced with a celebrity double. I watched enough of that conspiracy theory. I 100% believe it. Yep. I believe it. Avril Lavigne is not the same Avril Lavigne when she sung Skater Boy.
She's actually
not the same person.
She's actually a
She's
lizard
an adult
person.
now.
She's a lizard person.
She's a different person. Just a different person.
Just like that
celebrity double.
that Justin Bieber video where his eyes go all weird for like a split second. Was it Justin Bieber? I think it was Justin Bieber.
I
I
don't
haven't
know.
seen that.
Oh, it like goes like to reptilian face for like a split second.
Is this why there's so many conspiracy podcasts? This we've done an hour at this point. I'm pretty sure we've done an hour at this point, and it's still going. Like we can't actually define all of this.
It's
This would be like a whole series.
people like the unknown.
Yes.
That's just the crux of it. People
Well, it's,
like
it's human nature to gravitate towards the unknown,
yeah, and we want to make explanations
or
for
try
things.
to run from the unknown. That's also human nature.
I'm scared of not knowing
But I'm
how
scared.
much beer is left in my fridge. I got to run home.
You should go check that out, man.
That is an important dilemma.
Is your refrigerator running?
It ran away.
Oh fuck.
Who do you call at that point?
Ghostbusters.
I think you're absolutely right. Animal control is going to get your fridge back. Ghostbusters will do it, though.
I walked right into that one.
Set yourself up clean. Got that shit taken care of.
So I guess the conclusion is do more research.
And not only that, but be willing to
Accept,
accept that you could be wrong about anything.
yeah, look at
And
things from
look at
multiple different
both,
perspectives.
yes, multiple perspectives. If you argue with someone, dear God, be nice to people when you argue. I can't count how many times I've been in a Facebook argument and they're expecting that kind of vitriolic lashback, like, "Oh, you're stupid. You guys believe stupid shit." Blah 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 blah.
Something that I've seen from conspiracy theorists is the condescending, I know this is factual and you can't disprove me because I've done my research.
Yeah.
That mentality. That mentality does not help you at all
When arguing with people,
who are skeptical.
yeah, I mean, I've gotten replies back. Kind of, they're defensive at first, but then they open up, and then later on they'll say, I appreciate you're probably the most reasonable person I've argued with. We don't disagree, or we don't agree still, but this has actually been an enjoyable conversation.
Right.
And you leave the conversation with a little pride. You're like, okay, cool. You pondered it for a second. That's all that matters.
You're never gonna have someone listen to your argument if you're insulting them at the same time.
No, that completely shuts down. Like, if you get insulted, you go into a different mode of thinking.
Yeah. So argue better, people. Argue better.
And please research confirmation bias. If you
Yes.
have
Cognitive dissonance too.
cognitive dissonance, confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. If you are looking at something and you see something else and it correlates, is that you correlating it, or is there an actual justification for this thing to be relative to this thing? Find the middle ground. You have to if you want to actually prove this.
Yeah, if you really care about the honest truth, you're going to have to make yourself uncomfortable by researching the other side, finding flaws in those arguments, and then researching on top of that research.
Yeah, what I did, my researching method, although caveat here, this is not exactly like a scientific research kind of thing.
I have a degree in Dr. Google.
I did use Wikipedia. I'm sorry.
Wikipedia cites their sources. If you really want the actual
They
sources,
do.
go to Wikipedia. Go to Wikipedia's sources. They're typically legitimate sources.
Yes.
Wikipedia is a lot better than what it used to be.
Yeah. I used Wikipedia for the general information, and I used sites like Snopes or PolitiFact or whatever, like other fact-checking sites, and then I used the sites that they were all referring to. So, like, the original NIST site that has the entire review of their interpretation of what happened for the structural failure of 9/11, done by engineers and scientists. And for the Seth Rich one, it's all pretty much just political.
We actually got that information from Alex Jones' website.
Yeah, it's all from Alex Jones. It's
100% factual.
it's super politicized. So when things become politicized, it's very difficult to find factual information on the topic because there's the left, the right, the center, and anybody else who wants to chime in.
The aliens.
So for
What side are the aliens on?
The galactic side. I think they're part of the Empire.
the home planet, whatever that is. For the Seth Rich investigation, law enforcement, as well as fact-checking websites like PolitiFact, Snopes, and factcheck.org, plus the New York Times, LA Times, and Washington Post have all called it fake. They said these are false and unfounded claims. But take that as you will, because these sites can also lie.
Yeah, it's shameful how much our news system
Has deteriorated.
has gone from reporting actual news to getting views and ad space. And that's kind of, I mean, I've had to yell at people. I think I've stopped following like Now This or something like that.
Yeah,
because they
were so good, and
they
then
twisted an argument making it a racial issue when it wasn't. I think it was like Muslims in Denmark and their mandatory preschool or something like that, mandatory childcare, to kind of integrate them into society and learn the language and let their parents go get jobs. And they made it like, no, this is an internment camp. And I'm like, dude, this is a good system. This seemingly sounds like a great idea. Because you take people that have no education within this society, they don't speak the language very well, you give their children a place to go, which is basically like school. It's free childcare, and then it allows the parents to go look for work, get jobs, so that way they can support themselves. But they made it into a racial issue, it seemed. And I had to argue on there. I'm like, you guys are giving these people the ammunition to call fake news.
I've noticed that happening a lot more within the past like 5 years. It's constantly happening, especially with left-leaning.
I don't know what it is.
Left-leaning sites. They're propagating this whole everything is racist. Everything is racist.
It's toxic, in my opinion.
And then the right is countering it because everything is not racist.
Everything like,
but their counter is racism doesn't exist.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think when it comes to the right, it's some of the things they can say can seemingly be racist, you know, being prideful, being white and stuff like that. But when you flip it, people can be racist and white and black.
Yes.
Racism, definitionally, if you discriminate based on one's skin color, there's a lot of people on the left that commit that crime or issue.
Well, we totally have.
Yeah, we've completely derailed.
I am interested in this, though. We should do another episode on
episode
this.
4. Well, with me at least. You're on episode 12.
Yeah.
I don't know anymore, man.
It's impressive how far I've gotten with this.
Well, I mean, is it time to wrap it up then for then?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. Tyler, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
It's always a pleasure.
Handshaken on the podcast before.
We've done other shakings.
Yes. You mean keys, right?
Jingly keys.
And penises. Well, I don't know where my camera op went.
Oh, yeah, Brandie left. She's out. It's just focused on me now. Oh.
Welcome.
Thank
back.
you. We were looking at Ryan the whole time.
We were.
Yes.
Right in the eyes.
Right in the
My wife will enjoy this.
Has she been watching?
I don't think she has.
Ooh, your wife. That's a powerful word.
I know.
Wife.
It would actually be listening at this point because I don't
That's
have all
true.
the videos up.
That's true.
Anyway, we completely went on a
derailed.
tangent on other topics.
You missed
so-
nothing, Brandie.
Cool.
Yeah.
You are well over your hour limit anyway.
Yes.
Cutting room floor.
So-
I had somebody call my work. They had illegitimate coupons. They're like, why aren't they working? I'm like, where'd you get them? She's like, this website? Like, no.
Infowars. You guys go to Infowars. They have coupons.
Oh, well, they're probably illegitimate too.
You can get gay water.
Gay water.
Alex Jones sponsor us.
That'd be terrifying. But I guess we're gonna close it up for now because we're way over time.
Well, that concludes episode 12 of Your
I'm
Thoughts
dying.
podcast. As Ryan dies.
The globalist got me. Hit me with the hard gun. I can't breathe.
They shot a dart through the window that exposed him to some gas that's slowly infiltrating his nasal cavity and wiping out his system.
We should probably get him to a hospital.
Yeah. Thank you for being on. I hope you don't die. And that concludes episode 12 of Your Thoughts again.
Yeet.
Yeet.